Go figure. Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Now, the good news is that Jarrett has successfully completed his walk of faith, having walked over 1,500 kilometers from Howick in KwaZulu-Natal to Cape Town, most of it without a support car. He is spending the night on the couch in the home of Michelle and her family in Cape Town after being met in the outskirts of the mother city earlier today. Tonight I'm talking to Sakkie Louwrens about his work through Bosveld, Misdaad, Ondersoeke and Plaasbeveiliging. Wow, now that's a mouthful. In a classic example of an inside crime, here is the sort of thing that Sakkie investigates. I'll just show you some of the images while we're going through this. Following the gruesome murder of Ms. Deacon and her daughter in Velgegegen, Polokwane, Bosveld Crime Investigations, or Sakkie Louwrens and team, the South African Police Service, provincial detectives, and several other detectives, as well as ENCI and Senyaka. Wow, these are a handful of names here, guys. They worked together and apprehended the suspects. Following the murder investigation, were conducted overnight at Rabi Ridge, Tembisa, and a suspect was arrested at 9 a.m. in the morning. The domestic worker who worked for the deceased was subsequently arrested in Polokwane, as she and the arrested man are in a relationship, and she is also linked to the crime. That's where your link comes, guys. Domestic workers, they are so often the ones who hand out information to these murderers. Now, this is the home of the guy who committed the murder, and you can see he's got a lot of grog. But yeah. So this is the sort of stuff that Sakkie does. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Sakkie on so we can have a bit of a chat to him and find out more about his operation. Here we go. Hi, Sakkie.
Evening, Scott.
I'm here. I can't see you at the moment. We just need to turn your camera on.
Just hang on. There we go now. Is it better?
Not yet. No,
Scott?
it's still just the icon.
Not yet.
Oh, there you are. Now we got it. Now
Okay.
it's on.
Are you fine now?
It's all good now, yeah.
Okay.
All right, Sakkie, I just gave an example of the sort of work you do with that case that happened in September last year with Ms. Deacon and her daughter. Now, what I'd like to start with is, before we go into your work when it comes to farm attacks and farm murders, is first of all, get a bit of background information to yourself. Where did you grow up, and what brought you into this line of work?
Yeah, Scott, I was born in the old Rhodesia, now known as Zimbabwe, in Fort Victoria. That's now Masvingo. My parents left there when I was 8 years old. We then came to South Africa. I finalized school, and at 17, I entered into the police, South African Police Service. I was in the South African Police Service for 26 years, where I mostly dealt with serious violent crimes from a young age. I joined the detectives and I started working on serious violent crime cases. And I've been in the police for 26 years, where after I took discharge from the police, a lieutenant colonel, and that's when I continued with the investigation of serious violent crimes. And mostly in the rural areas, so farm attacks forms a big part of it. Although we do house robberies, car hijackings, business robberies, farm attacks forms a big part of what we do.
Right. Now, I need to ask you, you've obviously had a lot of time in the South African Police Service. How have you seen the standard of policing change since 1994?
Yeah, Scott, unfortunately, the last couple of years, things changed a lot. All the serious units, or the specialized units, if you can put it that way, were closed down, like the old serious violent crimes, which was murder and robbery before, the family child sexual offences, which are the children, and the rapes and those cases were closed down, as well as the narcotics. So a lot of the specialized units closed down. And from that, a lot of experienced guys also left the police because they had to go back to the normal detectives and so forth. And from there on, it just went downhill.
Well, hang on. You just said to me that they closed down a special unit looking into sexual crimes and abuse of children.
Now, that's about a few years ago, Scott. They closed down the serious violent crimes unit, which were involved for serious violent crimes. They also closed down that unit that we spoke about, the family, children, and sexual offences, and they closed down the narcotics.
No,
and those people were moved.
Now, Ramaphosa said last year that he was going to sort out the gender-based violence problem. How can they do that if they don't have a special department in the police service looking into this?
Now, Scott, they reopened it again, but the problem is when they closed it down about 2014, a lot of the experience and a lot of experienced guys left.
Yeah.
So they opened the units again, or they're trying to establish specialized units again, but most of the experience and most of the skills were lost. And the people are also struggling with logistics, vehicles, DNA samples. There's a lot of challenges that my old colleagues in the police now have to deal with, and it's going downhill all the way.
Well, my understanding is that the DNA forensics side in the SAPS hasn't operated since the 1st of January. They haven't done one test.
It's true, Scott. There's a big problem with the DNA, as well as with the AVIS system, that's automatic fingerprint identification system. There was a problem with that also because of several things of the person who's not paid the contractor and so forth. But the DNA stays a challenge. I hear they're talking about trying to get the backlog.
They've got something like 170,000 pieces of DNA to test. 170,000, and that was back in January. That's a backlog. It's huge.
Yeah. And the problem is the new cases are coming in. I mean, it's not that it's only the backlog. There's new cases coming every day. So it's going to be a big challenge, yes.
Wow. That is just absolutely ridiculous. All right. Now, okay, so your background is very much in the police service. It's doing detective work. Right. Now, tell us about the time you're in the police service. You obviously, over that period of time, must have seen things changing in South Africa, just through your work. Tell people how things changed from 1994 to today, while you were actually in the police service, the number of murders, the number of attacks, the number of investigations you're involved in. Just give us an idea about that.
Scott, I've been busy with the serious violent crime since around about 1992. And up to date, I handled more than 300 farm attacks only. I'm not talking about other cases like serial rapes and serial murders and other murders. I'm talking about farm attacks where people were attacked in rural areas. I did more than 300.
Wow. Now, I just want to concentrate a bit on the South African Police Service, because I think it's a tragedy what's happened to what was once a really effective government department or arm of government. And I put the blame fair and square on Becky Cele. I don't think that guy knows what he is doing, and he walks around like a prince as if he's, king of the world. But have you had much contact with the leadership in the South African Police Service in recent years?
No, not at all, Scott. Although I work very narrowly with the police in Limpopo, we've got a very good relation in my work with the police. I know the guys in Limpopo because I've been in Limpopo for all the years. So
right.
I must say the police cooperate with me and they help me, and we work a lot with them, yes. But they have a lot of challenges, the guys that are still in the police, as I say, with DNA, with logistic, with vehicles, with a lot of stuff that's failing them, unfortunately. Yeah, and as I say, most of the experience guys left in the detectives.
Yeah, look, I and the problem is when you get to the courts, a smart defense lawyer will expose all the flaws in what the police are doing, and the person will get off scot-free. Where if they'd had the evidence properly collated and if they'd had the DNA tests, it would have been a totally different outcome, wouldn't it?
That's true, Scott. Yes, that's also a challenge because of the experience that's gone and the struggle with stuff like the DNA and other stuff. Yes.
Wow.
It's a big challenge.
Now, tell us about your organization and who are the directors of it?
Scott, we formed a company called Bosveld, Misdaad, Ondersoeke. That's obvious Afrikaans name because we're dealing in Limpopo mostly and in Waterberg, which is more of an Afrikaans environment.
Right.
As I say, it's Bosveld, Misdaad, Ondersoeke. The directors of the company is Dries Visser. He's well known in the area in the game industry, breeding of game, and also in the hunting industry. Then the other director will be Anton Barnard, who's a businessman in Tabazimbi. He's got AB Labor Consultants. And he also has a game farm, and then myself. We are the three directors of the company, which is a non-profit organization.
Right. Okay. And your company, from what I can gather, does police work, doesn't it? Investigates crimes and stuff like that.
That's true, Scott. As I say, we still investigate serious violent crimes in Limpopo mostly, but all over. But Limpopo is our stronghold. That's where we are situated. And yes, we still deal with serious violent crimes. At this stage, that's what we do.
Yeah, I guess the obvious question is, you used to be a top police detective, and now here you are outside the police service doing the same thing. Why is that? Why are you no longer still with the police service doing this work?
Yes, Scott, as I say, the system failed us, and it's easier to do the work, if I can put it that way, outside being private. It's easier. There's vehicles, cell phones, stuff you need to do your work. It's easier to obtain it yourself and have it yourself, and to struggle with having vehicles, struggling with a lot of cases that's been given to you that's not relevant or not serious cases that's dumped onto your table. So most of the detectives sit with a hell of a lot of work that any case from theft to all other crimes, and that makes it difficult to concentrate only on the serious stuff. Yeah.
Well, look, I think I get it that there's some really good police in South Africa. I get that, but the trouble is that their reputations have been tarnished by these police in other areas which are just not doing their job. I get in so many reports of people who've faced a farm attack, a farm murder, whatever it might be. You take those 4 white policemen who were arrested at, I think it was Piet Retief, that they appeared before the court. And the level of investigation that took place before they were arrested was absolutely ridiculous. You must know the case that I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're referring to the farmers that were arrested at Piet Retief. Unfortunately, I haven't got insight into the case, but I know what case you're talking about. It's the farmers that were arrested at Piet Retief for the violence that happened on the farm and the shooting that took place and so forth. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, this is the absolutely disgusting state that South African policing has got to. As I say, I know there's some great police out there, but you've got some police out there who are just completely clueless, who are conducting investigations, and this is why so many people are getting off their charges, or they're arresting the wrong people, putting the wrong people behind bars. Anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear here, the reason you set up this non-profit company or organization was because you could do your work more effectively as a detective outside the South African Police Service than you could inside the South African Police Service. That to me is a huge issue.
Yeah, Scott, as I say, in South Africa, they rely a lot on security companies, on investigators outside. There's a lot of private people working on the crime and helping and assisting with the crime and with crime prevention and with the investigation of crime and so forth.
Yes. So how do you actually get a salary if you're a NPO, and do you charge people to investigate, or is this just something you get from donations?
And on the serious violent crimes of the non-profit, we only work on donations and sponsors, and then on certain days, events that are created like golf days and auctions and so forth. So we rely solely on donors and sponsors, Scott, to do what we do. And the reason why we did this, when we started doing this, we sat around the table and we discussed this matter. There are many people in South Africa that can't financially pay for a case to be investigated, that are attacked, that go through gruesome crimes, and horrific stuff happens to them. And we just felt that we have to help these people. You can't turn your back on people and say you want money first before you help them. That's not ethic for us. That's why we decided on the non-profit.
Wow. Now, have you heard of Patriots for Minderheid, or Patriots for Minorities?
Say again, Scott?
Have you heard of the organization Patriots for Minorities?
No, not yet, Scott, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm going to put you guys in touch, because I'll tell you what they do. They're an organization that actually goes out and represents basically white people who've been wrongly charged and are now facing charges in court. And, look, some of their cases are just absolutely ridiculous. I won't go into them, but there's a lovely lady who's the main stalwart of Patriot for Minorities, and I think you've got a tremendous synergy between your investigations and the work that they do in the judicial system. They're also a non-for-profit organization.
Yeah, maybe if we can get into touch, we can share some information, and we can try and assist wherever we can try and assist each other wherever possible. Yes.
Yeah, look, I'll get Marlena to put you both in touch, because she's got your contact details. Okay, now getting back to your organization, we've talked about basically what you do, but is there anything you'd like to add regarding its mandate and purpose?
Scott, as I said, the mandate and purpose of Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke is to deal with serious violent crime and endangered life species poaching. That's now the hyenas and the lions, but mostly it's serious violent crimes, house robberies, farm attacks especially. We specialize in that, and yes, as I say, we investigate the matter, and we work with the police in Limpopo. Luckily and fortunately at this stage, they still accept us to work with them, and we've got a good relation in Limpopo with them. So yes, we deal with the cases, and that's what we do. Our mandate is serious violent crimes mostly, and then endangered species cases also.
Right. Do you know a guy by the name of Root? ROODT. He's actually got an organization that goes out and tries to stop poaching of rhinos in Limpopo. You must know him.
Simon
Simon Root,
yes, I know about him. I know they've got an APU, anti-poaching unit. Yes, I know of him. Yes,
yeah,
I definitely know of him.
yeah, because we've had Simon on.
No,
We've had Simon on a live stream about a year ago now.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys and organizations in Limpopo that try and do the anti-poaching, or that does anti-poaching, and that does unit. Simon Root is one of the big guys in that industry as well. Yes, I know him.
Yeah, no, he does fantastic work. Now, it's a, you know what is just so, as I hear more and more of these NPOs that are out there, basically doing what the government should be doing, it's just quite extraordinary. I mean, the three I've spoken about, Simon Root, your organization, Patriot for Minorities, these are all things that the government should be actually looking after, taking care of. But they're too busy, filling their own pockets to actually look after things which are the basics of governing a country. It's just crazy. Now, getting back to your organization, I've got to ask this question again. Why a non-profit? I mean, how can you keep going if you're not getting any money except for donations? Because what the sort of work you do is not cheap, is it?
No, it is not, Scott. But as I say, we are fortunate that people make donations to us and give us some money, so we go forward. And as I said, why the non-profit is to help all people abroad in South Africa who are affected by serious violent crimes, or most people possible. And all of them haven't got the resources and the finances to pay for the cases to help them. So we feel that we want to try and help everybody. That's why the non-profit.
So right now, how many cases are you investigating?
Scott, we're still busy with the Deacon case. There's one suspect outstanding. Then, well, it's quite a lot. We're busy with quite a lot of cases all over Limpopo. There's also the case at the Papa Pavlo murder case. I'm busy with the Deacon case. We're still busy with the case in Polokwane where an old lady was murdered, where the suspect is known but still wanted. There's a lot of cases. I can mention a lot to you.
Wow, that's just incredible. Now, what is your relationship with other role players in this area?
Scott, that's what I say. In Limpopo and Waterberg, especially where we originate from, we're quite fortunate. We've got a lot of security companies that do prevention of crime. Then we also have Matlabas Farm Watch, which is a big farm watch here in our area, which do patrols and stuff, and also do crime prevention. We also have a good relation with people that put the cameras on the main roads through Sintel. The data runs through Sintel. So there's quite a lot of people that take hands or work together to try and prevent crime and to investigate the crime after it happens. So there's a lot of private people fighting crime in South Africa, if you put it that way. They strengthen each other's hands.
Well, I understand that the security industry in South Africa is probably the biggest industry around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very huge and it's still growing every day. It's just going to grow, and it's going to get more and more necessary for more security companies and more security to be done by the people themselves.
Wow. Yeah, look, it's not. I left South Africa in 1986, and I left because I was concerned about what was happening in the country. And when I think back on how safe things were back then in South Africa, relative to how they are now, it's just not the same place, is it?
No, definitely not. As I say, you can see in the statistics, crime is a big issue. There's a lot of corruption that's going on. There's a lot of things that's not going in the right direction, but that's why we're here. We have to try and turn it around. We can't just all give up and just let everything go. We have to try.
Yeah. Now that brings me back to the South African Police Service. You work with the South African Police Service, and clearly the people you work with are, good policemen because they're doing their work. What sort of relationship do you have with the police? How do you work together when it comes to investigation?
We've got a very good relation in Limpopo with the provincial detectives and with the people in charge of the detectives in the serious cases. As if we get cases, they sometimes ask us to get involved. They sometimes phone us and ask us to assist. Other times we get involved in a case, then we go and speak obviously to the police people in charge of the case and to the investigation officer, and then we try them. We talk to them and tell them that we are there to assist them. We're not there to fight against them or work against them. We try and help them to solve the cases. I must say we've got a good relation between our company and the police.
Oh, that's excellent. And Rudy's just said in the side chat, the more we do for ourselves as private companies and NPOs, the better, because the police will fall further and the prospect that they will become irrelevant is real. How would South Africa survive without an a police force? I mean, it would just go into anarchy, wouldn't it?
It will definitely. There's no any country can't work without the police, and especially here where the violent crimes and all the other crimes is escalating every year and every day and every month. They can't be without a police force, and also not without the security companies and the people that do what we do. That's why I say we all have to fight crime together. If the police is gone and we're not there anymore, I don't know what's going to happen. The country can shut down completely.
Yeah, well, I know in townships now they have what's called mob justice, where they actually grab someone who's done something wrong and they stone the guy. And oh, look, I'm not going to go into the sort of stuff they do, but that's I guess that's a frustration of the people, isn't it? They're just sick and tired of these people in their community who are committing crime and the police aren't doing anything about it.
You gave the answer now that I wanted to give. It's frustration that causes this. They get frustrated with the crime in their midst, and that's what happens. And they take it into their own hands and deal with the people in that way. That's not the right way to do it, but I understand their frustration and I understand why it's happening.
Now, I need to ask you a straight question here because it really just dawned on me. Is that the African way, perhaps, that, you know, someone does the wrong thing, forget the police, forget the justice system. That's a colonial type of approach. We'll look after this ourselves. We'll deal with the person ourselves, because I know that happens in East Africa, for example, exactly the same thing. So is this perhaps a way of the future for South Africa if the South African police service disappears?
I hope not, Sir Scott, but yeah, I think it's possible because I think Africa as a continent is used to violence and serious violent things that happen, and violence is a thing that people grow up with in Africa and South Africa as well. Violence is part of everyday life, so that's what's the big challenge and what's the big danger.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Now, we've touched on your organization depending on donations and stuff like that. Do you have a Facebook page or a website that people can go to find out more about you and actually make donations?
That's correct, Scott. They can go into a Facebook page. Our Facebook page is also Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke. They'll pick it up there. Our banking details is there. There's also a WhatsApp link that the people can join. But they'll find everything. Also, all our cases we work on, our successes, everything is put onto the Facebook page. And I say again, the Facebook page is also called Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke.
Okay, I'm just going to throw that into the side chat just so the people who are from overseas. Okay, Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke. And the balance of the name is Plaasbeveiliging, isn't it?
Say again?
Don't you also have the name Plaasbeveiliging as part of your name?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke.
Okay.
That's Bushveld Crime Investigation in English, if you want to put it in English. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to put the Afrikaans one in the side chat because people can look that up and then have a look at what you've succeeded in doing. Right, now let's continue. Now, what has become apparent to me, Sakkie, is that most of the farm attacks and farm murders are directly as a result of someone who a farmer trusts, even a domestic worker, being involved in providing information to the gangs that come and attack. Is that what you have found in your investigations?
Yes, Scott, as I say, I've been working with these cases since 1992, 93, over 300 of them. There's always a connotation to the farm. It's all somebody that works there, somebody that worked there, maybe a contractor that just came there to paint or to do fencing or to do thatching of roofs. But there's always a connotation between the person attacked and the suspects. Strangers don't go to a farm and just attack a farm. I've never seen it in my life before.
Right, and I guess the domestic workers are probably the best form of providing information, because they would know where the safe is, they would know where the guns are kept, they would know how the easiest way to enter the farmhouse is and stuff like that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, as I say, domestic workers sometimes, yes. Also, people that come to your house to come and do contract work, they come there. I take a builder, for example. He comes to your farm or your house, you know him as Sakkie, but all the people that work for him, you don't even know who they are, where they come from. And some of these people are picked up from street to come and work for a day, and then they see what's going on at your premises and at your house and stuff. So it's quite a dangerous scenario.
So what's the solution then?
Scott, it's difficult. Farmers, and especially I'm talking about farmers now in rural areas, every farmer is responsible for his own safety. There's no security company in the world or anybody that's going to tell you they can look after everybody on a farm. It's just too far apart and too isolated for that. So people are responsible mostly for their own defense and safety on the farms. Unfortunately, or fortunately, if we catch the people and what we do what we do, we stop them to do it again, and they end up behind bars most of the time if the cases are investigated properly. But it's a very difficult situation. But farmer or person in the rural area will always be a vulnerable person, and unfortunately, sometimes the elderly are also staying alone on the farm, so it's easy targets because they are so isolated.
Yeah. Now, I just go back to the Piet Retief case, because I think this was a real game changer. As far as if I was a farmer, I would see it as a game changer, because what you had was a farmer, the way I understand it, that the farmer went out because there was a bit of a ruckus going on outside, and some black labourers had come onto his farmland. They're trespassing on his farmland, and they were causing trouble. And the white farmer basically said, look, get off my land, etc., etc. And he then called for help when they threatened him. And I think 3 other white farmers came and joined him and supported him. And during this, there were 2 brothers, one who worked for the farmer and one who was part of the group who had trespassed on the land. And they had a bit of an altercation, and there was a gun involved, and the one brother was shot by the other brother, and the brother who was shooting away was then shot by one of the white farmers in self-defense, because this guy was just shooting randomly around the place. And when the police came and investigated, they only spoke to the people who had trespassed on the land, who made up their own story about what had gone on, and subsequent CCTV footage disputed with their side of the story. They never spoke to the white farmers to get their side of the story. And then the white farmers were arrested and put inside a police holding cell for about 2 weeks before they were let out on bail, after the magistrate realized that there was flaws in the evidence that had been put forward by the public prosecutor. Now, this is where it gets really disturbing in South Africa. The coffin case with those 2 young white guys. Now, they were let out after a couple of years of being inside on totally fabricated charges. And that came out when they appealed. And I think AfriForum was involved in that appeal. Now, the public prosecutor who fabricated evidence at the coffin case trial is the same public prosecutor who is now involved in this Piet Retief case. And once again, fabricated evidence was put forward before the magistrate at that trial, and that was exposed through the CCTV footage, and the fact that this the police had never actually got the side of the farmers. You know, clearly there's something terribly wrong at that basic level, and the sort of work that you're doing and investigating it from the outside. If people didn't have this sort of support, you can see there's a huge disconnect in the truth and what's been presented in many cases in the courts in South Africa.
Yes, Scott, unfortunately, I was not involved in those cases, but I hear where you're coming from, what you're saying. Probably those cases must have been investigated properly first, and more investigation must have been done before they decided who the guilty parties were, especially on the farmers at Piet Retief. I mean, there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of things that's coming out now, but already there's been an arrest made quickly after the incident. Farmers were arrested and accused of murder and so forth. So rather, they must have investigated the thing properly first and then decided who's responsible, who not, and then made a decision maybe before just arresting and continuing. As I say, I haven't got the facts of the case, but I also follow the news and see what's going on there. But it's probably would have been much better if they first investigated the thing properly, looked at all the angles, got all the evidence and the statements before just making arrests.
Yeah, well, I hate to say this, but clearly the police and the public prosecutor are racist. They were clearly targeting the whites involved in that incident, and this is a huge problem. And I mentioned Patriots for Minorities earlier, and Elsa B. Yuan is a lady's name. She's a lady who basically is like the face of Patriots for Minorities. They're involved in a case in Scottsboro where an elderly white farmer actually used his pension money to buy this farm near Scottsboro. And what happened was that the local community decided they wanted to use his farm, have their cattle on the farm and stuff like that. And of course there was conflict because he was trying to grow fruit and veggies and the cattle would come in and eating everything. And to cut a long story short, this guy, the farmer, the innocent farmer, was arrested, put inside a holding cell in Umkomaas police station, and in that police station he was raped. And he was then, after being held there for the night, he was released. No charges were laid, except a few weeks later they came out and arrested him for suggesting that he had actually driven his car over someone, and that was all fabricated. But this guy is still going through court action in Scottsboro, and Patriots for Minorities are now actually supporting him, and that the whole thing is completely fabricated. The case is completely fabricated. And the worst part is that about 6 months after this, 10 police came to his house, his farm, and they assaulted him in his farmhouse. They nearly killed him. And IPID were told, and they identified who the 10 police were. They still haven't taken affidavits from those 10 police about what happened. And this happened well over a year ago now. This is a tragedy of what's going on in South Africa. And of course, the farmer involved was a white farmer. His name was Flippy. And, you know, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy out there.
Yeah, it saddens a person if people start doing things that's based on racism and not doing their work properly. And as you say, that farmer, unfortunately, as I say, I don't have the details in the cases, but what I hear from you, it's absurd. I mean, how can it happen? It's just not supposed to happen. And those people must be dealt with. Those police officials, if they did what's wrong, they must be dealt with, and they must also face the law, and they must face the courts, and they must be dealt with in the right ways and manners. But as you say, it will be a sad day when racism starts dictating our courts and our police force and the rest of South Africa. Then it will be a very sad day.
Well, unfortunately, in certain parts of South Africa, that is the reality. That is the reality today. I mean, the court system has become totally compromised. Now, I'm sorry, I had a bit of a rant there, but I just wanted to share with you a bit of the background to Patriots for Minorities, because we will be putting you in touch, and Elsaby will tell you more about this case with Flippy. And, it's just an example of where the system is just completely broken down. Now, let's get back to what we talked about, the domestic workers and the farmers who work on your farm. What advice can you give to farmers regarding that, so that they minimize the risk of inside information being given to a gang of thugs?
Now, the best thing to do there is, as I said, it's a very difficult situation. You have to have workers that work for you, but you must know your workers that work for you. You must know people that come onto your farm. Contract workers, your own workers, seasonal workers, you must know them. Take their fingerprints, take their photos. There's stuff you can do. There's a company that Johan Ellis, a friend of mine, and myself started called FITSA, Forensic Investigation Data South Africa, where we go to farms, we take the people's fingerprints, their photographs, we take all their personal detail. It's all logged into a system, into a database. So that already lets a person think twice before he makes nonsense or does crime on your farm, because we've got all his detail on a system. Unfortunately, in South Africa, you can only have your fingerprints used on the system by the police and stuff when you're guilty of an offense. You cannot use the other fingerprints of stuff that's not used. And we've also got a lot of foreigners in the country. So it's best to know all your people on your farm, get most of their personal detail, and make sure that you, as I say, know all your workers, know all the people that get into your farm, get as most details of them as possible. And that will just make our work easier to look for someone afterwards. And a guy will think twice before he does a crime or commits a crime.
Right. Well, I know in Bultfontein, the farmers there have workers who've been working for those same farmers for generations. In other words, the father and their sons go and work on the farm, and so that they know their workers really well, and they're very, very careful about who they actually let onto the farm, because of exactly what we're talking about here. Okay, now look, I'm going to be wrapping up this live stream shortly, but I would like to know, are you going to be continuing to do this sort of work until you retire? Is this like your life goal now, just helping people with investigations?
Definitely, Scott. That's what I've been doing for my whole life. That's what I'm good in. That's what I like to do. So if possible, I'll still do it until retirement. Yes, definitely. That's what I want to do. And as I said, why we do it, it's in our blood to help people. I've been doing it all the years in the police force. It feels good to help people, to assist people when they go through hardship and through tremendous horrific crimes like this. So yeah, definitely I will continue doing what I'm doing if possible.
Right. Now, Marlena just corrected me and said it was actually 20 policemen who assaulted Flippy. The police were all put on trauma leave at full pay after they had assaulted him. Can you believe that?
As I say, I don't have the insight in the case, but yeah I can believe it. It's possible. But as I say, unfortunately, I haven't got the insight into the investigation of what exactly is going on there. But there's means to deal with those people. I mean, I must do it. If they can't commit crime and it's not dealt with, they're not better than any other South African citizen. They must also feel what the consequences of what they did.
Right. Now, Nat Quinn has just said that she's added you to our forum. So what I'll ask Marlena to do is to give you the lovinglifetv.com details, so you can actually go to the forum. And once you register there, Sakkie, you can put in your information, you can put in cases you're investigating, all that sort of stuff, so the people who come to the forum can quickly get information on how to contact you, etc. And also to make donations.
Thanks a million.
So
thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
Yeah. In fact, look, I'll save Marlena the phone call. Well, she's got to phone you anyway. But if you just go to our lovinglifetv.com channel and make sure you register there, and then at the top you'll see forums, and you just click on the forums and register on the forum, and you'll see there's a special section which Nat has set up for you, so that you can go in there and put in information about what you do, and then people can use that information.
Thanks a million. I'll do so, Scott. Thanks.
Okay, fantastic. All right, now I don't see any questions for you at the moment in the side chat, but okay, let's say I'm a farmer and I'm watching this right now, and I'm saying, look, Scott, that's all very well. We know this guy does fantastic work. How do I contact him? How do people contact you? Is there a phone number people can contact you with? Is there an email address people can contact you with? What's the best way for people to contact you?
My phone is on 24/7. My number is 071.
Hang on, let me write this down.
798.
071.
798.
Yeah.
754.
Okay. 071 798 954. Okay, I'll just repeat that once more. So it's 071 798 7954.
That's correct, Scott. And my email address is sakkie@bosveldmisdaad.co.za. I repeat again, Sakkie.
That's a bit of a mouthful. I'll stick to the cell phone number. Okay, guys, if you know someone who's had a serious crime event and getting no help from the police, I've just put Sakkie's cell phone number in the side chat. All right, Sakkie, is there anything you'd like to say to people who watch this video later, or just something you'd like to say to people watching?
Yeah, Scott, I just want to tell them, must keep their heads up, and we must keep fighting the struggle and keep continuing to do what we do. And they must feel free to contact me for advice or where I can assist them. We must take each other's hands and try and make South Africa a safer and better place to live in.
Right. Well, I don't think that's going to happen under an ANC government.
I hear what you say.
I think under an ANC government, that's a bridge too far. But it is what it is. All right, Sakkie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and keep up the great work. It's always good to have people who are taking on the role of what the government should be doing but aren't doing.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks for the opportunity to chat to you. I really appreciate it. And thanks for what you guys are also doing.
You're very welcome. Well, look, we've got the farmers in our corner. We do a lot of work for the farmers, and I just want to remind people that if they are able to, and if they'd like to, they can make donations directly to your organization. And I'll just put the Facebook page link, well, not the link, the name of your Facebook page. Hang on, I just got to dig this up. Here we go. Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke. That's the name of the Facebook page. Okay, so I'll just put that in. That's great. And that'll have your details for donations as well.
That's great. Everything is there. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I've just thrown that into the side chat as well, and I'll put that down below the video in the description as well, so people can go and check that out as well. All right, Sakkie, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great evening. And let's keep in touch. And if you have a big case you take on and something big happens, just please give us a call through Marlena, and maybe we can have you back to discuss it.
I'll do so. Thanks a million for your time. I appreciate it, Scott.
Okay.
Keep well.
Take care. Bye for now.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Okay, guys, that was Sakkie Louwrens from the organization Bosveld Misdaad Ondersoeke. And if you know of someone who needs help, with the police are not doing their job, get them to give him a call. I've put his phone number in the side chat, and let's see how we can help people. All right, guys, take care. have a great evening, and don't forget, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we'll be having another live stream, and I will be putting up videos, hopefully during the time when you're asleep. Not that I had much sleep last night, but that's another story, which will include the updates on Jarrett and his arriving in Cape Town. Alrighty, take care, guys, and I'll leave the side chat open, as I said, just for a few minutes so you can say your goodbyes. Bye for now.